Hey guys, welcome back to my crypto diary. And in this video, I'll be talking about things I wish I knew before I started GPU mining. So today, my one of my mining rigs was having issues. It was rebooting every 30 minutes and it was giving me this error. GPU fault detected 147. So I tried Googling the issue and I wasn't able to I couldn't find a fix for it. Um, So I tried a couple of things. So there's some information here that actually helped me to resolve the issue, or at least threw me down a path of trying to resolve the problem. So once I got this error, I took a picture of it, and if you notice that the problem was on GPU 4, hash rate dropped from 29 megahashes to 0. So immediately, my assumption was one of my PCIe risers or powered riser was having an issue. So first thing I did was I powered down the rig and I reseated the cable for GPU 4. And I made sure all of the other PCIe risers were plugged in correctly. And then powered on the rig and I got the same error after 10 minutes. So I was thinking it could be a bad riser. So I replaced that specific riser for GPU 4, powered the rig back up, and it had the error again. So I replaced all risers on all 6 GPUs. So powered up the rig, and I was still getting the error. So this time I was actually really confused as to why I was getting this error. And after a couple of more minutes trying to figure out what could be wrong and being scared that one of my GPUs is actually bad or it burnt out, I actually remembered that the main thing that I changed was I was no longer dual mining Verge and Pearl, and I was just single mining Pearl. And when I did that, I actually changed my overclock settings. So since I was only solo mining Pearl, I changed my core overclock settings to 1100 for core, 2100 for memory. And apparently one of my GPUs or one or more of my GPUs couldn't handle core 1100. And that was actually causing the rig to crash. So I just dropped it down by 50. I'm at that 1050 now for core. Memory's still the same, 2100. And the rig's been up for 5 hours now. So after resolving this issue, I actually wanted to give you guys some tips as far as, let's say, troubleshooting and mining rig information that um, might be helpful in your situation. So let's start off with the list that I actually built here. So setting up a rig. So anytime you are gonna set up a mining rig, it's best that you actually do not connect your GPUs before starting it up. So set up your mining rig with the monitor, change the BIOS settings, make sure you update all of your BIOS, and then you change a couple of settings that's on your BIOS, like enable 4G decoding, change to Gen 2 for PCIe, and change the onboard display. That's the three things I change on my motherboard. And then when you power on your mining rig, try to power it on one GPU at a time. So connect one GPU at a time just to make sure that all your um, all your GPUs are overclocked correctly. So another thing I wish I knew is that overclock settings can actually be different for each coin that you're mining. There's different efficiencies. So say for example, if you're mining Ethereum, it uses the memory more than the core. Like say if you're mining Zcash or Kryptonite, it could be using more core than memory. So That's one thing on your overclock settings. Another thing is on dual mining. You may have a different overclock settings on your dual mining setup, just like what I was experiencing. I actually um, overclocked it too much because I was dual mining and it was able to handle it, but when I was just solo mining, it started crashing. So just another troubleshooting tip. If you change your config file to another coin and you start seeing your coin start seeing your mining rig crash and reboot on you, just double check your overclock settings. And the best thing you can actually do is take screenshots of each overclock settings that you have for each coin that you're mining. So say for example, in my case, let's see here. Uh, this right here, my overclock settings for my RX 570 Sapphire Nitro Pulse. And this is my overclock settings for my Sapphire Nitro Plus. So let's get back to my list. Overclocking. So it's best to actually do your overclocking on a test bench, since you're going to be removing your GPUs every time and rebooting your system every single time. You're basically wasting a lot of time overclocking just one GPU, instead of having your mining rig constantly mine, even if it's not overclock at the moment. Just overclock one card at a time and have a test bench for it. So another thing is overclocking could be very fun to do if you're a tinker, um, like me, and just like min-maxing your GPUs. I wasted close to half a day just trying to figure out what's the best setting for overclocking. Try to figure out what's the average hash rate for your specific card, and as long as you're close to it, just leave it be. You can try overclocking on your test bench, but make sure your other GPUs are mining while you're doing that. So another thing is that stability is way better than super high hash rates. Um, if your mining rig reboots once or twice every day, you're actually losing a lot of time in mega hashes every time. And if what happens if your mining rig doesn't come back correctly, you're gonna have to go physically home and unplug the power supply if you don't have a wireless power controller. So another thing here is GPU temperatures can actually be fixed by lowering the core clock settings or undervolting. And that was a big thing that I didn't know. I was consistently seeing my cards over 57, 67 degrees, and I want to have my cards below this, below 67. So if you could check my overclock settings for my target temperature is 67. And I don't like my cards running anything close to 70. So just underclocking your core or memory, core affects it a lot more, would actually lower the temperature of your card. So let's go to the next one. Choosing a good PCIe riser. So the risers that I suggest is the one that I'm actually using and the one that I purchased. I have them here, I think. So here. This is the riser that I use, and it has different power inputs, the 6-pin, the Molex, and the SATA. Preferably, you do not use SATA. If you're forced to use it, at most use two connections because of the watts that it can actually handle. Um, Try to use the 6-pin or Molex. So let's get to the next thing here. Um, a mining rig frame isn't that important to spend about $200 on. Mining rig frames cost anywhere from $60 to about $80, and I spent $170, I think, on my mining rig frame, and that was because it was um, mining was hot around December, and my first mining rig case that I purchased was $174, and the next one that I purchased was only 100, I think it was 120. Now they only sell for about $80. So yeah, 129, then $130 for that mining rig case. They're way cheaper right now. So next thing is make sure that your test bench is using an SSD. Or if you're going to be using Windows on your mining rig, make sure you have an SSD on it. Waiting like a full 5 minutes just for your mining rig to reboot is a pain. Just like when I was troubleshooting today, spent 4 hours rebooting the system. I rebooted the system at least, let's say 20 times in like 30 minutes. So next thing I have here, choosing a good PSU. So in an example of my mining rig, a 6 card AMD RX 570 BIOS modded will use about 850 watts and about 1050 watts dual mining. So just know when you purchase a power supply, know how much power you'll actually be needing for your GPUs. Know how many power cables that comes with your power supply, if it's enough to power your SATA connectors, your PCIe risers, and your GPUs. So another thing here is knowing the basics of like just your circuits that run in your house. Usually, like say in my apartment, I have a couple of 15 amp circuits and then like two 20 amp circuits. Try to figure out which circuits are on what breaker so you don't you don't draw too much power from each circuit. So I think it's about try to use lesser than 80% of what your circuit can actually handle. So just to be safe, try to only put about 1,000 watts from each circuit. Try to only draw 1,000 watts from each circuit just to be safe. So let's see here. Next thing I have here is choose the correct GPU for the right coin. So specific GPUs actually perform better for a different algorithm. AMD is known for AT hash, and NVIDIA is known for Kryptonite, and what was the other one? Was that what to mine? So there's this website called What to Mine, and you can enter the value of what GPU you have. Let's say you have a 1070. 1070 is really good at equihash algorithms, so you can use this to see what your GPU would be better uh, mining on. So another thing here I've listed is most motherboards don't come with an on and off switch. So you'll need to buy that separately unless the mining rig case you purchase comes with it. Another thing here is having the same type of GPUs is a lifesaver. So this is actually really true. The problem that I was having with my GPU, I couldn't narrow it down if it was my RX 570 or RX 580 that was having the problem. This rig that I have here, the 6 RX 570 Sapphire Nitro Plus. It's a 6 card mining rig, and it hasn't been giving me any problems. You see here the uptime is just a day and 5 hours, but this was actually running for about 4 weeks straight. The only reason why it's just a day was because I switched from dual mining to solo mining about 2 days ago. So let's get back to the list. This is a bit of a long video, so you could end the video or I'll continue for the last 5 items here. So let's see here. Mm, So your GPUs. When you get your GPUs, there is such thing as a chip lottery. Some memories that you'll be getting, even if it's the same model, you'll be getting a different memory in it. Some could be Samsung, some is Hynix, some is Micron, and they all perform differently. So another thing is when you're choosing your GPUs, some GPUs come with an 8 pin and a 6 pin, some just get powered with an 8 pin. My Sapphire Nitro Plus actually comes with an 8 pin and a 6 pin, but I'm actually powering it with just my 8 pin, and it's actually working just fine. So another tip here is Windows 10 free is fine. Another thing here is using an Ethernet connection is great. So it's way more stable. It's the only way actually SMOS or simple mining works. And I use a tool that actually helps me use simple mining in any area of my, let's see here. Here, it's called a power line with power outlet pass through. It's a power line adapter, basically. So you can plug in your Ethernet cable anywhere in your apartment or building. So let's get back to the list. Choosing a good mining pool is important. So I'll link below the video that I made about choosing a good mining pool. Choosing a good coin is even more important. So another thing that you might not know is moving the air around your GPUs is actually better than cooling the air. It's more beneficial. So instead of putting an air conditioner right next to your GPUs, which might actually harm your GPUs, just blow a fan on it. Just turn up or just increase the fan speed on your GPUs. That would actually be more beneficial to your GPUs. So another thing is something that I purchased recently. I haven't tested it out yet, but using a smart Wi-Fi plug would help you reboot your system if it crashes on you and you can't reboot it using simple mining. So I actually purchased that smart plug. I haven't plugged it my rig yet, but I'm thinking it would be really useful to actually have this to remotely reboot your rig or turn it off if needed. So let's get back to the list. I think I only have two more. So another thing is that you might not be aware on how much heat these mining rigs actually produce. So if you're not in an area that is cool, you might have some issues if you have more than two mining rigs in your house or apartment. Another thing is CPU and RAM don't really matter that much, so you could skimp on these items. So that's just a couple of things I wish I knew before I started GPU mining. I hope it helped you out. I know this video is quite long, so thank you if you were able to stay this long with me. Don't forget to thumbs up the video. Hit the thumbs down if you didn't like the video. Don't forget to share this video with your friends or family. And you guys have a good day. Bye.